Sup? Welcome to Tales Tomorrow. I'm Morrow, your storyteller for today, and with me we have some more RPG horror stories. I've been thinking about it. If Morrow became like an evil overlord, and I could make my own circle of hell, I think I'd make the circle of hell of Succulandia. It's a town full of succubi, and only one rule of the hell is just this: pineapple belong on pizza. Yeah, I like pineapple on pizza. Sue me, it's delicious. It's tropical, but only if it's like with chicken, barbecue sauce and stuff like that. Like if it's just like with ham, ew, it just doesn't taste as good. I'm more of a barbecue chicken Hawaiian kind of devil, if I was a devil. Anyway, enough about political talk. Let's get to some RPG horror stories for today. Tentacles and Furries, TPK'd my party. Okay, I gotta be honest, this was a guilty pleasure title. I saw the title, it looked very appealing, so we're running with it, because I am curious. How do these tentacle furries kill and TPK your party? I need to know. It had all led up to this. 4 mortals against a god. The day before, I'd woken up in a cell with 3 strangers, a couple of halflings, druid and rogue, and they were checking each other's wounds to make sure they were right, and a half-elf paladin with sunken eyes. No equipment, no spellcasting focus or spellbook for my human wizard, and no recollection of how we ended up here. When we eventually escaped our cell, we found out that our captors were wolvers, humanoids with wolf heads. Their behavior and social structure was similar to that of a fantasy orcs. Their strength was in no numbers. They dined on other humanoids' flesh, and one of them was the sharpest tool in the shed. After finding our equipment and freeing our prisoners, we realized our situation hadn't improved. The prison was on an island surrounded by a stormy sea. However, there were no available ships out on our side of the island, and the other was brimming with hundreds of wolvers. Many of the captives were kids and non-combatants, but we couldn't drive them to a reckless, pointless, and suicidal charge even if we wanted to. It had become clear that we'd been brought to the island to complete the ritual for the wolvers. Their god had been chained by 4 guardians, against which the wolf humanoids were powerless. If we wanted to save ourselves and the other prisoners, we had to defeat the guardians that were capable to hold an evil and chaotic deity. We were level 5, but we weren't ready to surrender yet. Once we freed the wolf god, we vowed to destroy him once and for all, or die trying. The battle against the guardians was surprisingly easy. The rogue enjoyed the help of my owl familiar to always apply sneak attack. Our paladin picked up a long sword that allowed him to deal 3d6 additional necrotic damage every time he hit with it, and the druid used his wildfire spirit and scorching ray to burn everything in his path, while also throwing the occasional healing word when things got dire. I'd built my abjuration wizard to survive a couple of hits by starting with level of artificer, while also debuffing our enemies with phantasmal force and web. However, all was not well. Our paladin was having visions of his deity, an eldritch abomination from outer space. He started to be able to use fleshy tentacles to strike his enemies in combat, but when he did, he entered a frenzied state where he regarded everyone as his foe. Me and halflings debated attacking him to put him down, but his strength was needed in the final battle against the evil deity. Also, PvP is rarely fun in D&D, even when everyone's in on it from the start, and this was not the case. As long as the DM is not overusing the whole PvP section to try to get the party to kill each other, I'm kinda still curious. Where are the furries? Where are the tentacles? I need to know. As the 4th guardian fell, a magic door opened before us. We looked at each other, an approvable group of adventurers, woefully unprepared to fight a god, but that had learned to trust each other's strength and cover for each other's weaknesses. Our resources were not depleted. We were able to finish a long rest right before the final confrontation. The rogue, the druid, the paladin, the wizard, and the DMPC elven cleric, which rarely used her spells in combat and was essentially an underpowered fighter, crossed the threshold to the wolves' god den. This is the last time we ever had any semblance of agency. Oh, if players are not going to have agency, then I wonder what kind of a disaster this is going to be. I'm super happy that I picked it just from the title alone, but I'm interested to know how bad was it. I don't have a really good nose, but I have a nose for cringe, and this sounds like cringe. The god's form was that of a hulking behemoth of a wolver with 2 heads. The DM announced that the cleric was casting Bless out of initiative. After that, everyone was asked to roll a wisdom saving throw. I was ready to fail it. A wisdom was my dumb stat as I did not have proficiency in the saving throw, but I rolled a 19 on the die and 3 on the d4, bringing the total to a more than respectable 21. Funnily enough, the rogue also rolled a 21, and the 2 PCs that had proficiency in wisdom saving throws both rolled 13. The cleric didn't roll. The wolf god takes his enormous axe and effortlessly split the druid in half from head to toe. Wait, what? Hold on, that's not a wisdom saving throw. Wait, since why do you need a wisdom saving throw to avoid a giant axe? We were stunned. Why was that consequence of a failed wisdom saving throw? Why did only the druid die? And the paladin was fine? Why weren't we in initiative yet? The druid player was not happy and started to pack up his things to leave. Me and the rogue declared our intent to fight. However, the paladin was suddenly behind us with his tentacles around our throat. No rules necessary. The DM asked the paladin what our fate was to be. And the paladin, after realizing he wanted to fight, choked the life out of us. What the hell is going on here? Hold on. None of this is there's no missing context. I'm just straight up reading as it is, but I feel so lost. Can somebody get me a map for this disaster? Then the DM and the paladin started to discuss how the wolf god would become his next deity in the terms of their contract. 10 minutes of one-on-one roleplay, while the other 3 members of the party are unsure what to do. Is this the end of the session? Are we going to have an afterlife scene? Are we going to be resurrected to do the wolf god's bidding? Was the DMPC cleric going to save us? Then the DM declared the session to be over. Oh my god! Party just got cucked by a wolf god and tentacle paladin. The wolf god, the furry wolf god, and the tentacle paladin just cucked the players. Bravo, DM! Way to ruin your campaign. Way to ruin the whole thing. Oh my god, that is the most unsatisfyingly funniest, stupidest way to end the campaign. Everybody is dead except the paladin who made a pact with the wolf god. The roleplay for 10 minutes and then that's it. Session over. What'd you guys think of it? Jesus Christ. Oh my god, what a train wreck. He was excited. Of course he is. Satisfied and utterly incapable of reading the room. The paladin is quiet and refused to meet our accusing eyes. How was the game, guys? Druid was the one to answer. Next time, just write a frickin' book. Ooh, scathing remark by Druid, but you know what, you're right. If you really want to have a situation where player agency doesn't matter, and none of it matters in the first place, why would they even have to go through the Guardians? Just to what, die? Such a fun campaign, man. I'm glad I spent so many hours just trying to engage in that campaign, engage in that world. Wow, what fun. This sucks. I'm so sorry I have to deal with this. For real. What is going on with some of these DMs, man? We literally covered a story about the last DMPC and last DM from last session. Just should have wrote the book instead of doing this. Why? Anyway, let's go ahead and get to the next story for today. Your skull is crushed. No saves, you die. This happened long ago, playing Dark Heresy Warhammer with IRL friends. The GM wanted to do a more down-to-earth campaign, having us make Arbites police characters rather than the typical inquisitorial agents fighting the supernatural. We realized early on that the big bad is a noble who has vast resources and knowledge. He is also really slippery and we struggle to get any evidence of any actual wrongdoings. The campaign goes on for months and we end up following blind leads a lot. Some sessions will make no progress, but we continue on with the investigation either way. Jesus Christ, the mental fortitude of these guys, going for months upon months for blind leads, sometimes making no progress on session. You deserve a better GM. At one point, we have a huge action scene and some of us die or are maimed, taking months in game to recover with cybernetics. Generally in the campaign, we had 2 to 3 characters die due to various combat scenes, which we were used to in inquisitorial campaigns, but hoped it would be better in this one. We were told the investigation is time sensitive, so we're getting a bit worried. The second last session comes along and we have my character at a place where it's playing a fine line between helping the Arbites and helping the big bads to get information. I meet the big bad's right-hand man and convince him we got to work together to take down the big bad. We didn't discuss specifics, but we'll figure it out the next time. The last session rolls in and the GM explains that we have a meeting with the big bad. It's a bit alarming, but not the first time. We'll go to his mansion. In the main hall, we enter to see the big bad. Next to him is beaten to crap right-hand man. Big bad monologues how he figured out all of our plans. Now it's time for me to die. He grabs my head and crushes my skull. No saves, just death. The GM then went on to unpack the plot as no one at the table understood what was going on. Somebody played the Warhammer game that they're talking about here. If you can maybe let me know if there's like a precedent for this sort of thing or not. Like, is that a common thing? I get Warhammer series or like the Warhammer games could probably be a little bit more on the gritty, darker, tougher side of things, you know, but you kind of roll with the punches. And each game is going to be run differently. Is that something that could happen, or do you still need to do a saving throw? I mean, at this point, I feel like you still should be able to do a saving throw, like some sort of death saves or something. Strength check to see if your skull can even resist being slammed down to the ground or to the table or whatever you've been slammed at. There probably should have been something there instead of just straight up killing the player, because if you kill the player, well, they can't do anything, can they? They can just sit here with like a thumb up their butt and just do nothing. Apparently the GM went and had right-hand man try and betray Big Bad right away. And between sessions rolled, a lot of checks to see how it plays out, but he got caught and Big Bad learned everything of his betrayal and my character's involvement. Big Bad was also apparently on some Giga Chat drugs we never figured out and was basically a mutant at this point. He explained the damage breakdown, and that even if you roll minimum, it will be so much damage that it counts as instant death. Another story where the BBG, like seriously, last video we covered the story where the BBG was just so overpowered and powerful. The BBG is supposed to be like the big bad evil guy, the big bad, right? They're supposed to be kind of powerful and stuff, but what is the point to just like having to roll to see how much numbers the character's gonna have if the minimum roll would still be way more than a character has health? You know what you could do at this point? Have your BBG take the character's head and slam him to the table, leaving him with maybe like 1 health point, just barely alive, right? If you really want to show strength, hit him hard early on, let him stay alive so that they can anticipate the next time you can have the BBG appear and the party can be ready. It's the same thing when video games kind of put you against a completely insurmountable, unkillable foe just for you to die on purpose, and then play a cutscene if you kind of resurrected and come back and you're fighting through the triumph, and then the proper game starts. It's a little bit like that. Play a cutscene of that. You don't have to roll for anything, just make it so that the player is barely alive. Simple as that. And then roll from there. Might as well. It's better than taking out the player's agency entirely by killing off their character. This was the start of the session, and the rest was very awkward as we had to play out our game over the world is ending scenario, where we found out more and more about how badass the big bad was. GM ruled being attacked during the speech counts as surprise. Oh my god! Surprise round! Right, of course, because the BBG be able to do like insane amount of damage as it isn't already overpowered. Just let them have a surprise round apparently. Surprise the players, of course. No fate point burn was allowed. Had 4 available. I don't know what fate points are, but I'm assuming you can maybe like burn them in order to try to survive. But seriously, I gotta say something. I hope the next story has no DNPCs, BBGs that are overpowered, because I'm getting a little bit sick and tired of. I'm just getting not even sick and tired. I'm just so fuming inside eternally. My tiefling butt is my tiefling blood is boiling hot, hotter than usual, hot like a freaking volcano from the irritation about these horrible DNPCs and BBGs that are just so overpowered and insanely powerful and stuff. Bad DMs out there are making my blood boil so badly, but hey, it's RPG horror story, so what did I expect? Player wants infinite items, throws a tantrum. I run Cyberpunk Red. I've had an online campaign running for now about 10 months. It's a solid group. Sure, we had the occasional hiccup, but nothing worthy of this subreddit until now. The Cyberpunk Red rulebook doesn't have any real rules to dictate carry weight or how many items someone can carry with them at a time. It just relies on a rule of common sense. I relied on that as well and just kind of hand-wave checking for inventory a lot of the time. I don't like to get bogged down on micromanaging my players. I just want to get into playing. But there were a few moments where my player characters brought or wore items that didn't make sense at all to where they were going, and narratively it felt like it didn't work. Stuff like wearing police-issued armor to a casual outing at a gang's dive bar, or bribing an assault rifle to a carnival performance. I also wanted to encourage my players to think strategically about their carried inventories and not to be able to pull a rabbit out of their hat at a moment's notice. Try to put together an inventory management homebrew, but the player this post is about immediately started looking for ways to exploit the proposed rules so you can still carry 30 plus items. Having inventory limitations for a TTRPG or even a game and stuff, like, it makes sense. It's a little bit annoying in video games, right? Because like your gamer brain says, I want to hoard everything and be able to use everything anytime. But realistically, if you have like a gun and then a grenade and then another grenade and then a code hacker and stuff, like, unless you're carrying a giant hiker's backpack all the time with you, how are you gonna expect it to be carry stuff? Some of the fun is learning about how to circumvent a lot of these challenges in games and TTRPGs through inventory management and carry weight capacity and stuff like that, because realistically your character just doesn't have a bag of holding all the time, and even then the bag of holding can only hold so many things. You can only put so much stuff inside a bag of holding. If you have infinite inventory, then why not just carry every single looted item possible and just play like Skyrim? I actually have that problem as well in my games. I have a problem with teaching players not to just loot goblin the whole time and about carrying capacity and everything. Then you to D&D and stuff, so having to turn off the gamer brain takes a little bit, but I'm slowly working through that with them too, so I understand the concerns. It was completely against the spirit of what I was trying to accomplish. I decided to scrap what I originally proposed and said I was going to do some thinking about how to change it, but essentially the goal is for people to be bringing closer to a dozen items instead of 30 plus. I said I needed to think about a simple, fair way to accomplish what I was trying to accomplish, and that I encouraged everyone's feedback, so that way we could have something everyone was happy with. Two of the players approved of having something in place as they liked the planned strategy. Player 3 started to have a meltdown. He said it completely undermines and nerfs his character to have an inventory limit of any kind. He said he's built his character around having a lot of items and it ruins it for him. Said there's need to be some kind of limit as no one should have infinite items carry with them. Player 2 asked 3 what he thought was a reasonable and fair amount of items to carry. Also asked player 3 how many items he actually used in the last few sessions because it was not anywhere near 30 items. Player 3 refused the notion of having an inventory limit and argued both in group chat and started blowing up my DMs, saying he would leave the group if I imposed an inventory system of any kind. No matter what it was, he would not agree with it. And that was non-negotiable. Non-negotiable over a simple inventory system to prevent players from carrying 100,000 items in the inventory because realistically it just wouldn't make sense for them to do. Really? Is that really your make it or break it moment? Is this really that weird of a hill you want to die on over the inventory imposition? I mean, at most, how many guns do you think you'll be able to carry in Cyberpunk Red? I would guess as weapons, you probably have a melee weapon, a backup melee weapon, main gun, and a side gun, right? Maybe it depends on your build, right? You might just go full guns, or you may just go full melee. Maybe have like a grenade or a stim pack, or like some sort of a healing item, maybe some sort of utility item, a few other utility items. At most, I think 10 is very, very generous, considering you can have like 2 to 3 weapons and the rest is just whatever you want to bring afterwards. I think that's fairly generous, and though maybe I don't know anything about Cyberpunk Red, I don't know, but the people that play Cyberpunk Red or experience Cyberpunk Red would 10 be a generous amount. Please let me know down in the comments below. I'm genuinely curious. He then said that if I had to do this, I need to make his character stronger by making drugs more powerful and changing his gas jet weapon to use a handgun instead of shoulder arm skill. I said if he wants to make a more powerful drug or make upgrades to the gas jet, he needs to consult with our tech player to propose an invention. There's an entire role dedicated to making upgrades and modifying items. I'm not going to do that for anyone for free. I ended up saying that I was suspending any kind of inventory management homebrew for now, and I would only implement something if everyone agreed it was fair. Player 3 refused this also, since I still wanted to implement something at some point and decided to quit the campaign. Quite frankly, the ultimatums, the tantrum, and the entitlement soured me to him as a player, and to be honest, a person as well. He started asking about doing a send-off for his character in-game, which I haven't responded to, as I'm frustrated and disgusted at his attitude. The fact that this player is just even unable to consider having to have a discussion or talk about this in the future is just... it's baffling. It really is baffling. I don't think this player is worth the DM. Honestly, I think it's best you just focus on the other players, recruit somebody else, and just let this player go forever. Update! Thanks all for your insight. I have a small update about the situation. I told the player that I will not be doing any send-off sessions for the character. I told him he chose to leave because he wanted to metagame and was focused on winning instead of telling a story. I also said that I did not appreciate being given ultimatums and being told, run the game the way I want or I'm leaving. So that's it. It's done. He told me, quick correction, the main reason I'm actually leaving is because of the time zone difference, unhealthy hours. It said he wasn't trying to be a power gamer, but it was about what was more fun for him. Yeah, you are a power gamer because what's more fun for you is to abusing the lack of inventory system that the DM would just want to impose because it seemed like a balanced system. The other players had no problem with it, and they could have discussed about how to modify it until everybody's happy. But no, for this guy, what's fun for him is be able to carry every single 1,000 items that he can have because apparently he's playing Skyrim without a carrying capacity mod on. This player doesn't care about anybody else's enjoyment. They only care about their own enjoyment, and the own enjoyment is be able to carry 100,000 items together with themselves without a reasonable inventory system. This actually made me even more irritated because I don't believe he can in good faith say he would have quit the game yesterday if the topic of inventory management had never come up. When we were discussing the issue in DMs yesterday, he eventually got to the point where he said, I can't be bothered with this anymore, I'll leave the campaign. Then he made a long post to the group chat that he was leaving, and he gave inventory management and his spiel about it as a reason number 1 on why he was leaving. I hesitate to use the term, but it did feel like he was trying to gaslight me about what happened in that moment, of some attempt to placate me, make me feel like the circumstances around him leaving the game were more acceptable somehow. It certainly had the opposite effect. Well, DM, all I can tell you is the guy did you a favor by removing the problem. The inventory system is not the problem, other players are not the problem, you are not the problem player is. And they've graciously decided to be so benevolent and remove themselves from the game, so everybody else can keep enjoying Cyberpunk Red. Beautiful. And with that, that's gonna be all our stories for today. I want to thank you very much for watching, and thanks so much for being here. If you like what I do, consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a like. Also, if the RPG Horror Stories ever goes down, or if you want to submit your own personalized horror story, email is down in the description below. I'll see you again in more Tales tomorrow. Bye-bye.